Have you ever looked around at the world and wondered, why is there so much suffering? Why do terrible things happen, even to those who seem to live with kindness and integrity? It's a question that can leave us feeling confused, frustrated, and even a little lost. It's a question that honestly has haunted humanity for centuries. Philosophers, theologians, and everyday people have all wrestled with it, searching for meaning in the face of pain and injustice. Why do bad things happen, even to good people? Why does suffering seem to strike at random, sometimes hitting those who least deserve it? The book of Job, nestled within the Hebrew Bible, grapples with this very question. It stands as one of the oldest and most profound explorations of human suffering and divine mystery. It's a story about faith, suffering, and the search for meaning in a world that often feels, well, chaotic and unfair. Job's journey is not just about his pain, but about the struggle to find hope and understanding when life doesn't make sense. The book of Job doesn't offer easy answers. Instead, it challenges us to sit with uncertainty, to ask hard questions, and to accept that some things may always remain a mystery. Instead, it takes us on a journey alongside a man who experiences unimaginable loss and pain. Job's story is raw and honest, showing us the depths of despair and the resilience of the human spirit. Through Job's story, we're forced to confront the uncomfortable realities of human suffering and the limits of our own understanding. We see how grief and confusion can lead to growth, empathy, and even a deeper sense of connection with others. It's a story that resonates across cultures and time, speaking to the deepest questions we have about life, faith, and the nature of God. In the end, Job's journey reminds us that even in our darkest moments, we are not alone in our search for meaning. At the beginning of the story, we're introduced to Job, a man who seems to have it all. He's described as blameless and upright, one who feared God and shunned evil. Job is wealthy, with vast herds of livestock, a loving family, and a comfortable life. He's a man who follows God's laws and lives a life of integrity. Job's life is a testament to the blessings that come with righteousness, at least on the surface. He's a model citizen, respected by his community and seemingly favored by God. His story sets the stage for the dramatic downfall that's about to unfold, a stark contrast to the peace and prosperity he enjoys at the beginning. Unbeknownst to Job, a celestial drama is unfolding high above, far beyond anything he could imagine or control. In the unseen realms, forces are at work that will soon reach down and touch every part of his life. This cosmic conflict, hidden from human eyes, will change his life forever, setting in motion a test of faith unlike any other. In a gathering of the heavenly beings, Satan appears before God, joining the assembly of angels. God proudly points to Job's unwavering righteousness, highlighting his integrity and devotion. But Satan, ever the skeptic, challenges God's assessment. He suggests that Job is only righteous because he's been blessed with prosperity, comfort, and a loving family. Take away everything he has, Satan argues, and Job will surely curse you to your face, revealing his true character. God, confident in Job's faithfulness, grants Satan permission to test him, but forbids him from harming Job himself at first. Suddenly, disaster strikes. Job's world is turned upside down in a single day. He loses his wealth, his livestock, crops, and possessions are destroyed or stolen. Even worse, his beloved children die in a tragic accident, leaving him utterly heartbroken and alone. As if that weren't enough, Job is struck with a painful, debilitating illness, covered in sores from head to toe. Everything that once defined Job's life, his family, his fortune, his health, is ripped away in a series of devastating blows, leaving him in utter ruin. Yet despite the unimaginable pain and loss, the text tells us that in all this, Job did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing. His faith, though shaken, remains unbroken. As Job grapples with his newfound suffering, three friends come to comfort him. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar are all devout men, but their attempts at consolation are rooted in a flawed understanding of God's justice. They believe that suffering is always a consequence of sin. Job's friends engage him in a series of dialogues, each presenting his own arguments for why Job must have sinned to deserve such punishment. They urge him to repent and seek forgiveness from God. However, Job vehemently maintains his innocence. He knows in his heart that he hasn't done anything to warrant such suffering. This conflict between Job's lived experience and his friends' theological arguments forms the central tension of the story. As Job's suffering continues, his pleas for answers become more desperate. He questions God's justice, wondering why he's being punished despite his righteousness. Job's cries of anguish echo the cries of countless individuals who have faced unimaginable pain and suffering throughout history. Job's experience reminds us that faith isn't always easy. There will be times when we question God's plan, when the pain feels unbearable and the silence from heaven deafening. But even in his despair, Job never completely abandons his faith. He continues to wrestle with God, demanding answers and seeking understanding. Finally, after chapters of debate and despair, God responds to Job. But God's answer doesn't come in the form of a simple explanation. Instead, God appears to Job in a whirlwind and challenges Job's limited perspective. God asked Job a series of rhetorical questions about the creation of the universe and the intricacies of the natural world. God's response is awe-inspiring and humbling. He reminds Job that the universe is vast and mysterious, governed by a wisdom that transcends human understanding. God doesn't explain why Job has suffered, but he reveals his power and majesty, inviting Job to trust in his sovereignty, even when his ways are beyond comprehension. The book of Job doesn't offer a tidy resolution or a simple answer to the problem of suffering. Instead, it invites us into a profound exploration of faith, pain, and the human condition. Job's story is not about quick fixes or easy explanations, but about the complexity of life's hardest questions. Instead, it leaves us with more questions than answers. We are challenged to sit with uncertainty, to acknowledge that sometimes suffering simply doesn't make sense from our limited perspective. But that is precisely what makes the story so compelling and relevant. The book of Job doesn't shy away from the reality of pain or the difficulty of faith. It gives us permission to wrestle with doubt, to voice our confusion, and to seek understanding even when it feels out of reach. Job's journey reminds us that faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about holding on, even when everything around us seems to fall apart. Faith is a relationship, not a formula. It's about trusting in God's goodness and love, even when we don't understand His plan. Sometimes hope is found not in explanations, but in the quiet assurance that we are not alone in our struggles. It's about holding on to hope in the midst of suffering and finding meaning in the face of the unknown. Even when answers are elusive, the act of persevering can be its own form of faith. The book of Job encourages us to wrestle with the big questions, to lament when we're hurting, and to seek God even in the midst of doubt and despair. It reminds us that questioning is not a sign of weak faith, but a part of a genuine spiritual journey. It's a story that has resonated with readers for millennia, offering comfort, challenge, and a timeless message of hope in the face of life's greatest mysteries. Through Job, we see that suffering can deepen our compassion and connect us more deeply to others. So, what do you think? Have you ever found yourself asking the same questions as Job, searching for meaning in the midst of hardship? How does the book of Job speak to your own experiences? Does it offer you comfort, or does it challenge you to see faith in a new way? Share your thoughts and let's continue the conversation. Your perspective matters, and together we can explore these timeless questions of faith, perseverance, and the mystery of suffering.